Hello, today we're going to be talking about the ecological systems theory. Originally proposed by Yuri Bronfenbrenner, the ecological systems theory views the person as developing within a complex systems of relationships affected by multiple levels of surrounding environments. So there's three levels to the ecological systems theory. There is the micro, the macro, and the meso. The micro is more dealing around like your immediate family, your surrounding environments, your like your neighborhood, the playground, that area when it comes to like growing up. The meso is talking about like your extended family, school, and your friends. And then the macro is talking about maybe the country that you live in, your religion, just the bigger picture of things that affect and influence the way that you think. So I think that in reference to what has affected me the most, I was thinking at first that it was going to be the microsystems, because my mom, who is my immediate family and the person that I've lived with my entire life, has had like the most amount of impact on my life, like just the way that I think and the way that I do things. But then when I think about it, so my entire family's from New York, and there is a certain way of life that we live while we were in New York. But then once we moved and we got away from my entire family, because it was just me and my mom, it was like we started to do things differently. Some of the things that we think were acceptable back then aren't the things that we would like think is acceptable now. So while that had a deep influence on us, our surrounding, and especially once we changed environments from living in New York to living in Charlotte, North Carolina, I think that the meso had more of an influence on my life specifically, just because there was more of a my friends definitely had a big influence on who I became as a person. So I was talking about in my paper that as a teenager, you kind of learn about like your morals, and you develop into the person that you're going to become, and you start to think on your own. You start to think for yourself. So the things that you thought were acceptable maybe as a child because your parents said it was acceptable may not be something that you agree with as a teenager. So I was talking about like the LGBTQ community, where that became something that I was like, not violently, but like vehemently, like I'm all for every right. They deserve to be who they are, and we shouldn't be allowed to tell people how to be. Women's choice. My body is my own. I get final say in what I should do with my own body. And I surrounded myself with people that were like-minded, where my friends had influence on the things that I thought. And if you didn't think the exact same way, it was kind of like, okay, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to be friends with you, how this is even going to work out, because these are what I feel morally is right. And if you don't morally think it's right, okay, if you don't think it's right, you have to at least be willing to stay in your own lane. My body, my choice. You may not agree with being pro-choice, but as long as you leave me to my own devices and aren't upset because I did what I thought was right for myself, that I would think that was like really good. And I was like, okay, I could be, still be friends. And so being said, it was more about what my friends thought. If my friends thought that this was a good idea, or that they agreed with the things that I was saying, or agreed with me in general, it was more like, okay, then I must be thinking the right thing. If I think that in society we kind of follow, not a hive mind, but we follow what the people that are close to us think, and that we're more susceptible to agreeing to whatever's being said to us because of that. And our country could say one thing, where majority of our country could, or half of our country is divided. Half of us think of gay rights and women's rights to be necessary, and then the other half is kind of like, I don't think so, I don't agree with everything. There's two halves of the same whole, and we pick and choose like which area we're going to go in. And majority of the time, the way that our friends are going, the way that we're going to lean, and our friends have the biggest impact on any of our lives, because they just hold a type of what's the word I'm looking for? They hold a type of value where we're still looking for acceptance among people, even after, you know, growing up, and I've come into my own, and I think that I'm the person that I'm meant to be. I'm still seeking not validation in a lot of points, but still seeking validation from the people that I call my closest friends that are around me, because if they agree with me, it gives me a sense of, not pride, but it gives me a sense of something that is like, okay, I am doing this right. This is, I'm not alone in this. I think that a lot of times in growing up, that we're looking for validation in the things that we think or the things that we say, that we're not alone in the things that we're not perpetuating, but in the things that we think, that we're not alone in it. And when you find out that the people around you also think the same way, you're more confident in the things that you're thinking. So I hope that answered that question correctly. Good night.